Good evening, everyone. Thank you for participating in Tarion's 2018 annual public meeting. My name is Peter Balasubramanian, and I'll be your moderator for the evening. Tonight's program will cover some of the highlights from 2017. You'll hear about new tools for home buyers, homeowners, and builders, enhancements to consumer protection, improvements to our dispute resolution processes, and of course, information about our financial performance. Tarion has also been working hard to support the transformation in the way the warranty services and regulating builders will be provided in the future, based on strengthening protection for Ontario Consumers Act, which was passed in 2017. Now, this is the third year we're holding an annual public meeting via webcast, which makes it possible for people from all over Ontario to participate. Today we have over 1,500 people that registered for this program, and we have already received over 100 advanced questions. Now, to begin, I'd like to introduce the panel of participants this evening. First, Paul Golini, our new chair of the board of directors. Howard Bogash, president and CEO. Saloni Warich, vice president of stakeholder engagement. And Kevin Brodie, vice president of operations. Now, also with us tonight is Jill Moriarty, the Tarion ombudsperson. The Tarion ombudsperson promotes and protects fairness for homeowners in their interactions with Tarion. For more information about the Ombudsperson's office, you can read its annual report at www.ombudsperson.tarion.com. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to give you a bit of background on the Tarion Board of Directors itself. Tarion's governed by a board of 16 directors, with members that have backgrounds in the new housing industry, new home buying experience, customer service, and financial areas. The board has members from regions across Ontario, including members with experience from both provincial and municipal levels of government. You can get more information about the Tarion board members as well as the management team by looking at the biographies, which are all available on the Tarion website. That's www.tarion.com. Tarion also has a Consumer Advisory Council. The council provides ongoing advice from a home buyer's perspective on proposed Tarion policy changes. The members of the council include consumers who have been through our warranty process, recognized consumer advocates, home inspectors, building officials, real estate lawyers as well, and other experts who have direct dealings with new home buyers. Now, let's move on to annual public meeting business. We're going to kick off tonight's meeting with our panel, as well as some of other senior management via a video. This will provide a broad overview of some of the key accomplishments of 2017. We want to make sure we have as much time as possible for questions and answers, so these presentations will only focus on the highlights. You can find more details about what we accomplished in the annual report itself, which is available on tarion.com. So now I'd like to ask Howard Bogash, our president and CEO, to get us started.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening to everyone tuning in. I'm pleased to be here tonight with members of our management team and board to present some highlights from the past year. 2017 was a year of great change for Tarion. With the passage in December of the Strengthening Protection for Ontario Consumers Act 2017, the Ontario government announced its intention to make significant changes to the way Ontario new home builders and vendors are regulated and to the way warranties and other protections for buyers and owners of new homes and condos are administered. The legislation laid the groundwork for two organizations, one to regulate new home builders and vendors, and the other to administer warranties and other protections. In the meantime, Tarion will continue to serve new homeowners and builders alike. We're also investing in forward-looking changes that make a tremendous difference in the services we provide. An example of these changes is our new apps. Today's world is digital, and so are we. Our mobile-first strategy has produced apps that give our homeowners and builders more choice and greater ease in how they interact with us. To be versatile and responsive, we need to be mobile. Apps were the next logical step for our My Home and BuilderLink portals. They've allowed homeowners and builders to get answers and perform important tasks from wherever they are. In 2017, we also launched a third mobile app, the My Home Planner, which allows consumers to research new home developments and manage important milestones during the home buying process. We also improved the design and performance of the Ontario Builder Directory and Tarion.com. These changes have made it easier for homeowners and new homebuyers to research builders and to look up warranty information. While 2017 was a challenging year, Tarion remained focused on improving consumer protection. Our staff worked hard to deliver two key enhancements: increased deposit protections for freehold homes and warranty coverage for condominium conversion projects. I'll now turn it over to Kevin to speak more about these enhancements.
Thanks, Howard. As housing prices have risen, so have the amounts required for deposits on new homes. As of January 1st, 2018, buyers of freehold homes now have better deposit coverage. 10% of the purchase price up to a maximum of $100,000 with a minimum of $60,000. This new level of protection also includes coverage for other payments made, such as for upgrades and extras. In 2017, Tarion also extended warranty coverage so that it includes units and common elements within residential condominium conversion projects. Examples of these projects include warehouses and other older structures that are converted into condominiums. This coverage also became effective as of January 1st of this year. In addition to these warranty coverage enhancements, following an independent review of our dispute resolution processes in 2015, we've been focused on improving our tools and resources to help homeowners resolve claims with their builders. In this short video, Patty Lutz, our Director of Customer Service, and Carol Metcalf, our Director of Warranty Services, will provide you with some further information on Tarion's early intervention program and our mediation pilot that we launched in 2017.
In 2017, we continued our early intervention program. This program aims to help reestablish communication between the builder and the homeowner and to resolve disputes early in the warranty process so that both parties are able to move forward. By year-end, we received 43 requests for early interventions. In many of these cases, a successful and timely resolution was achieved.
In late December, Tarion also launched the pilot for a mediation process, which aims to reduce the number of claims that could end up in court. It is also designed to give homeowners more alternatives for resolving their issues.
As part of Tarion's current regulator role, we work with partner organizations like the Ontario Building Officials Association and the Ontario Home Builders Association to protect consumers from illegal building. In fact, in 2017, we made this cooperation official by forming the Ontario Building Partnership. Through this partnership, we continue to work with 15 municipalities across the province to raise awareness of illegal building. Tarion has also adopted a new approach to enforcement, one that uses different tools and tactics to bring builders into compliance and to provide the education and support they need to ensure they understand and comply with their warranty and other protection obligations to homeowners. In the following video, Amy Lewis, Senior Manager of Stakeholder Relations, talks about our new Start Right program.
Anyone who wants to build new homes in Ontario is required to register with Tarion, and as of 2017, all new builders are brought into the Tarion Start Right program once they become registered. The Start Right program provides newly registered builders the resources and support they need to navigate the warranty process early on in their career. That's before they ever receive their first warranty form. The program ensures all builders are connected with a dedicated Tarion representative who will provide support and education at key milestones, like when they enroll their first home or when they receive their first warranty form. It also sets the stage for ongoing continuing education by requiring that builders in the Start Right program attend a Tarion Builder Update in their first year of registration.
Tarion is not only committed to protecting consumers, but also to building strong communities. Each year, Tarion staff take great pride in giving back to the community by supporting a variety of causes. 2017's highlights included supporting a Habitat for Humanity build in London, Ontario, participating in McHappy Day for Ronald McDonald House, and organizing a successful 23rd edition of our annual charity golf tournament. In this next video, Eileen Holden, our Vice President of Human Resources, gives a few highlights of how Tarion employees demonstrated their commitment to giving back.
In 2017, Tarion staff were proud to help build homes for 2 Habitat for Humanity families. 10 employees donated 104 hours of labor to help build the 2 homes. In keeping with our tradition, we waived the enrollment fee for each of these homes. As a matter of fact, we waived enrollment fees on a total of 114 new homes for Habitat for Humanity in 2017. In September, our 23rd annual golf tournament raised $20,000 for the Children's Wish Foundation. With help from our staff-led Tarion Cares Committee, Tarion employees support a variety of other charitable causes all year long. In 2017, there was no difference. Tarion employees donated more than $11,000 to 20 charities, including the Movember Foundation, Easter Seals, CNIB, and the Toronto Firefighters Toy Drive.
Many would be surprised to learn that at any given time, there are approximately 400,000 homes in Ontario enrolled in the New Home Warranty Program, and another 100,000 or more homes under construction that could be eligible for deposit protection. Tarion is funded by builder registration and renewal fees and home enrollment fees. In order to fulfill our consumer protection mandate, Tarion maintains a strong guarantee fund. This fund provides financial security against current and future warranty claims, as well as potential catastrophic events that have bankrupted other warranty programs in Canada. A healthy guarantee fund is Tarion's best safeguard to ensure your home receives the protection it deserves. In this next video, our Chief Financial Officer, Edmund Lee, will provide some updates on our financial performance in 2017.
2017 was another solid year for Tarion, and the corporation achieved a positive bottom line of $22.7 million. This was mainly driven by 3 key areas. Firstly, the Ontario new housing market remained robust, despite a number of cooling measures introduced by the government. We saw almost 69,000 homes enrolled in the year, the highest level we've seen in the last 10 years, and the stronger enrollment levels translated into higher fee income. Next, our guarantee fund continued to deliver positive investment returns. We did experience some negative exposure on the fixed income portfolio from the multiple interest rate increases. However, it was neutralized by the strong performance from our diversified equity portfolios. Thirdly, the management team remained diligent in cost management while they supported the government with the transformation work to begin establishing 2 new entities to carry on the consumer protection mandate. At the end of 2017, we grew our guarantee fund to $583 million and strengthened our equity or capital position to $275 million. I am very confident that Tarion has the financial strength to stand behind new homeowners against possible catastrophic warranty events.
In 2009, Tarion established the Ombudsperson's Office to help ensure that consumer interactions with Tarion and new home builders are fair and transparent. The Ombudsperson's Office is an impartial and confidential resource that functions independently from the rest of Tarion and reports directly to the Board of Directors. Every year, the Ombudsperson makes recommendations to Tarion on how to make improvements to its processes. This next video highlights the work and the 2017 recommendations made by the Office of the Ombudsperson.
The Office of the Ombudsperson works to ensure that Tarion treats homeowners fairly and that it acts within the intent and spirit of the Ontario New Home Warranties Plan Act. Each year, the office conducts a review of cases and makes recommendations to Tarion for systemic changes. These recommendations are included in the Ombudsperson Annual Report. For 2017, the office made recommendations in 2 areas. The first was to improve the Tarion experience for homeowners with disabilities. We recommended that Tarion provide more detailed information to homeowners about the accommodations that are available. We also recommended that Tarion inform builders about their own responsibilities to provide customers with accommodation. The second area was regarding honesty and integrity complaints about builders. We recommended that Tarion publish detailed information about the purpose, process, and potential results of honesty and integrity investigations. We also recommended that they publish aggregate data on the results of completed investigations. In this way, Tarion can maintain the confidentiality of the investigation process while verifying to homeowners that their complaints are being acted on. Tarion has accepted all of the recommendations from the 2017 Ombudsperson Annual Report and has provided the Ombudsperson Office with a detailed plan for implementing them.
These are just some of the highlights from a very, very busy year. For more information, please see our annual report, which is available at tarion.com. I believe that in 2017, we've been doing all the right things to prepare us for our potential transformation. I'm very excited about the future and feeling very energized about the opportunities ahead. We have the right team, the right mindset. We have our priorities straight, the best possible combination for success.
As the new board chair, I'm impressed with Tarion's accomplishments over the past year and how they've remained focused on improving consumer protection and delivering quality service. Staff have envisioned the future of the new home building industry and driven the development of new products, tools, and services that quite simply are the best in Canada. While many changes are on the horizon, I believe the future is even brighter for the innovative thinkers and doers at Tarion, who have faithfully carried out our mandate of protecting buyers and owners of newly built homes.
Thank you, Paul. So that's a broad overview of Tarion's work in 2017, as well as a review of some of the activity of the Ombudsperson's Office. As you can hear, as you've heard, it was a pretty busy and productive year all around. As Howard's already mentioned, there is more detail about the work and accomplishments of 2017 in the annual report, which can be found on our website. And if you want to know more about the activities of the Ombudsperson's Office, you can also visit the Ombudsperson's Office's website and read their annual report as well. Okay, as promised, we are now going to move on to the question and answer period. Some of the questions we will respond to are questions that we received in advance of tonight's meeting. Others are coming in as we speak. If you are watching this broadcast and you have a question, please email us at events@tarion.com, and we will refer your question to the panel for discussion. So that everyone who's participating in tonight's meeting can benefit, we also ask that the questions that are directed to the panel be of a general nature. But if you do have a specific question that relates to your own home or file, you can submit these too. We'll direct those to one of our warranty service reps that we have standing by. To help facilitate that process, if you have individual questions, please feel free to include a phone number where you can be reached tonight so that our representatives can call you directly about the question that you're asking. Now, due to the public nature of the discussion, when questions come to me that I'm going to put to the panel, I may end up paraphrasing some of the questions as they're worded. In addition, I'll refrain from identifying the authors by name and won't name specific organizations. Depending on the volume of questions we receive, our hope is to respond to these types of questions as soon as possible. It may be within the next 5 business days. It's likely that we will not have time to get through all of the questions that we receive this evening, but we are committed to answering them. The general questions that we don't get to will be posted to our website under the Frequently Asked Questions section of the website, and we'll do that as quickly as possible after the annual public meeting is over. Finally, I should point out that tonight's webcast is being recorded and will be posted to Tarion's YouTube channel within the next 7 days. Now, with all of that in mind, let me begin with the first question. And I'm going to start with a question that we received in advance. There were a number of questions that related to cancellations of condominiums. That's an issue that's been recently in the media. So I'm going to direct the first question to Howard, and I'm going to read the question first here, and this is the words used in framing the question. And here it is. Builders and developers can create contracts that allow them to cancel at any time and return the deposits to buyers, but buyers can't back out of these contracts without losing their deposits. This is very unfair. Who creates these laws? What are buyers supposed to do? And you can hear in the wording of that question the frustration of the consumer facing a cancellation situation. So maybe I'll pass this to Howard and ask you to explain from your perspective how do cancellations arise, and what's your perspective on Tarion's role with respect to those?
Firstly, we understand that this can be both frustrating and disappointing. There are a number of commercial, certainly in Ontario, there's a number of commercial reasons that a project can be canceled. Firstly, I'll point out to the first thing mentioned by the question. This is a contractual matter. The purchaser has entered into a contract between the vendor and themselves as to purchasing a condominium or a home in this respect. In 2008, Tarion introduced something known as the Tarion Addendum. The addendum really specifies a number of things. First of all, it clarifies the deposit protection that's available. It addresses aspects of delayed occupancy and delayed closing compensation that can be available. But also, very, very importantly, it now states that if there are commercial reasons for cancellation, they need to be put into one place into that document. Prior to 2008, they could have been sprinkled throughout an agreement. It would make it difficult for a purchaser or a purchaser's lawyer to go through and identify what those are. It also requires that those things be based in terms of the builder has an obligation to complete and perform this thing, and they must undertake best efforts to resolve those concerns that are raised. So in essence, we are quite satisfied that we provide one of the best warranty protections with respect to this in terms of what's in the addendum. You get deposit protection, you get clear definitions in terms of what those issues can be, and you get a commitment which is also reaffirmed in the Condominium Act, where a builder must undertake to best efforts to complete those. Now, that's not going to satisfy people in this regard. You're still going to be disappointed that the contract didn't go through along the way. This is a contractual matter. There are remedies for it that are outlined within the Condominium Act. I would suggest that if you are really concerned and want to follow this up, you have a discussion with your real estate lawyer how to best take advantage of those remedies along the way. I will sort of advise that Tarion's role is to make sure that your deposits were protected, that there's clarity for what those reasons are along the way, and that the builder has undertaken to do that in an honest manner.
Thank you, Howard. Just as a follow-up, you mentioned that cancellations can happen for commercial or other reasons. Can you give us, or maybe illustrate for the audience, some examples? Yes,
it's a really good point. So one of the examples would be if some of the conditions might be that a certain number of pre-sales need to be hit before the project can go on. Another one might be dealing with zoning or site approval. So they would require getting certain approvals from the municipality before they could be in. And the more also one that you'll find is a financial viability clause. And the financial viability clause may have several different aspects to it, but it will require, when the project is proposed, they will have to get some commitments on financing along the way. And those things can be changed along the way if the provider of the financing isn't satisfied. We also see circumstances where a company may become insolvent or seek creditor protection. Under those circumstances, too, would be grounds for canceling a contract.
Okay, so just to summarize what you've told us, Tarion doesn't have specific regulations that prevent cancellations from happening, and they can happen. But what Tarion does do is it has rules around disclosure of conditions, deposit protections, and in addition, it operates in conjunction with the protections under the Condo Act. There's a follow-up question here that we have received, which I think is a fair question, and I'll read it. What holds builders back from canceling projects simply to relaunch at a later date for higher prices? How can we hold them accountable?
Okay, the reality is if a builder follows through on the conditions within the contract and cancels the agreements appropriately, they would have the ability to go back and relaunch that project. The concern Tarion would have would be is to ensure that those conditions were the conditions that caused the builder to not complete the transaction, that there was due diligence put into them, and to make sure that that it was done strictly on basis of what the contract provides. And that's a very important aspect. Tarion does not have the ability to force the builder to complete the project. Tarion does not have the ability to compensate homeowners should they feel aggrieved within that. Again, I'll point out that there is a remedy for it. It is contained within the Condominium Act, and purchasers who feel aggrieved should have a discussion with their real estate lawyer.
Okay. But in a situation, in the situations you're describing, those are cases where there may be a reason for the cancellation. I guess the question that will be on people's minds is, what if the cancellation actually was improper? What does Tarion do? How does it handle that? And we did receive a question, and the question asked basically exactly that. The question asked, what is the protocol for investigating canceled building projects? I think I might ask Kevin, to the extent that you have the licensing experience within the organization, maybe you could address that. So let me just repeat that question again. What is the standard protocol for investigating canceled building projects, was what we were asked.
So condominium projects that get canceled, that's not an uncommon instance. They do get canceled. We've heard some of the reasons why they might get canceled, whether it's a builder's insolvent, whether there's some zoning issues, whether they're they don't have enough pre-sales. So what would happen is a builder would contact us, would contact the licensing and underwriting department to indicate that they are going to be canceling a project. We'd get the reasons for that. Sometimes they're very straightforward reasons, and sometimes the reasons might be a little bit more complicated. In the cases where they're a little bit more complicated, we would end up doing a review of those reasons to make sure that the builder is and has taken all the correct steps in canceling it based on the reasons that would have shown up in the agreement of purchase and sale and the addendum.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. We've got a question here that came in live. It's on a different issue. It's more specifically around the claims process. So maybe, Kevin, I'll ask you to start, but other folks can weigh in. The question that just came in is from a homeowner or who's asking, how long after a Tarion conciliation before the homeowner receives feedback as to Tarion's decision regarding the problems reported and discussed? So it seems a straight up question wanting to know what's the standard, how long does it take? How long should they be waiting? How long does it take to get back to them?
Typically, after a conciliation process has been completed, and what that means is a Tarion field rep has actually attended to an individual's house, has looked at items that the homeowner believes the builder has not rectified to their satisfaction. They get all the information that they need to, so they complete the inspection, let's say for today. Typically, it would be within 7 to 10 days, business days, that the homeowner would typically get the results of that conciliation inspection. The reason why I say typically it's 7 to 10 days is obviously it would depend on the significance of the defects that we're actually looking at. If they're more minor in nature, they can be easily resolved, determined whether or not they are warranted or not. But sometimes there may be a little bit more information that's needed, which means we could put it under investigation to have to actually determine whether or not those items are warranted. But we certainly would be getting back in touch with the consumer, either that we need more information or that we need more time. But typically it would be around 7 to 10 business days that they should expect to get our warranty assessment report, which is the findings of that conciliation.
Okay, Kevin, so what's your advice to a consumer who had a conciliation and more than 7 or 10 days have gone by and they haven't heard from Tarion? If that happens, what's your advice to them?
My advice would be certainly to call up the field rep. So, you know who the field rep is that attended your house, who performed the conciliation. You'll have their information. Certainly call that field rep up and just ask for an update on the status of their file.
Okay, thank you. We've got another question still on the claims area, but it deals with a topic that we do get a lot of questions about, and that's the PDI and the 30-day form. So let me read the question out to you and put it to the panel. How does the homeowner identify what items listed on their PDI and on their 30-day form are warrantable? We'd been advised by the builder to list all deficiencies on both forms. Can we assume, because we didn't hear otherwise from either the builder or Tarion, that all the items listed are actually warranted? So I want to unpack this question a bit because I think there's a lot in play here. One is what is the PDI? How does a homeowner, what guidance is there for a homeowner to assess things if they're warranted or not? And what happens when they don't hear from Tarion or the builder about it? Maybe, Saloni, you could start with a discussion around the PDI.
Thanks, Peter. The PDI, or the pre-delivery inspection, is a really important part of your process before you move into your new home. It is the builder's process. It is not part of the Tarion warranty, but it does lead into that, and it is a good record for you to see the state of the home and to be able to put down any items of concern as you walk through your new home before you take possession once again. It is important, and you should take your builder's advice, to list all of the deficiencies and concerns that you may see on that form. And if the builder does not fix the items during that period, then you are able to put it on Tarion's first warranty process form, which is the 30-day. It is important, once again, to be well prepared for this process. Take all the time you need to do a thorough inspection with your builder's rep. They're usually very proud to show off the beautiful product, your new home, that they have built just for you and your family. If you are curious to see, before you take part in your PDI, we have developed some resources specifically for you. We have some handy checklists that cover off some of the main rooms in your home. And that can be a guiding light as you go through your PDI process. We also have some videos, so we encourage you to check those out on tarion.com.
I can also add that you may discover other items between your PDI and your 30-day item. The fact that it wasn't on your PDI doesn't restrict you from putting them on your 30-day form. You still have that opportunity as well. And I also tell people, where possible, you may want to take some pictures of site conditions along the way. One of the issues that often comes into dispute are sort of scratches on floors. And when you're moving into your home, the home should be new. There's no furniture in there. It's a great opportunity to take a picture, because once the furniture moves in, if the floor is scratched, it may not be a result of the construction, but it may be a result of the move-in. So it's a great opportunity to get a good sense of what the site condition is. And remember, the PDI doesn't form part of the statutory warranty form, but it can inform the statutory warranty forms.
Okay, I think that's an important point to really remember, that the PDI form, which is your pre-delivery inspection, and the 30-day form are separate things for separate purposes. The other question that was part of the original one had to do with, okay, well, so now the homeowner is trying to fill these out. How do they know what's warranted and what's not? What's the process there? What guidance can the homeowner have? Kevin, do you have anything to add to that?
So it would start with the fact that when it comes time to fill out your 30-day form, which is obviously the first 30 days after you've taken possession, make sure you list on that any items that the builder has not fixed from the pre-delivery inspection. And then also list all the items that you have noticed within the first 30 days. And that list is going to form what's going to happen next. And so at the end of that 30 days, the builder then has 120 days to repair those items. So if you've listed, let's say, 20 items on your 30-day list, the builder has 120 days to fix those 20 items. You should be made aware of when the builder's coming to your house to fix those, so you'll have an opportunity to see what those repairs are. If you're not satisfied with those repairs, that's when you can get Tarion involved. So after the 120 days, the builder has either fixed the 20 items to your satisfaction, has either fixed the 20 items, or maybe you're not satisfied with the repair that they have done, or maybe they haven't fixed them at all. And so there's a responsibility on your part at that point in time that after the builder has, the builder repair period of 120 days has elapsed, there is a time frame where you have to request a conciliation of Tarion. So that's what you have to do as a homeowner to ensure that your rights are going to be protected, so that if you do want Tarion to come out and indicate what is warranted or not warranted, you need to request a conciliation. And that's done after the builder 120-day repair period. Sometimes people will say, well, 120 days is a long time to wait. There are instances, though, if there are items that the builder hasn't fixed or hasn't fixed it to your satisfaction that are of a health and safety concern or an emergency situation, something similar like whether it's a gas leak or complete loss of water or complete loss of electricity, those are items that would be deemed to be an emergency, and certainly you can call up Tarion before the builder 120-day repair period ends. But the first part is you need to fill out the list. The builder has the opportunity to fix those items, but then you do have to make sure that you contact Tarion after that 120-day repair period to request a conciliation if you would like Tarion's opinion whether or not the items are warranted. And sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes homeowners don't necessarily have a lot of education with regards to new home construction, and they might be a little concerned about knowing what should or should not be covered. You can obviously call Tarion to get our advice unofficially, whether it's through our tech desk or through our contact center. But there's another great tool that we have on our website. It's called the Construction Performance Guidelines. And I don't know, Saloni, maybe I'll turn that over to you to talk a little bit about that.
Thanks, Kevin. The construction performance guidelines have been developed and evolved over the last couple of decades in concert with and collaboration with the industry. And it really is a guide of over 250 of the most common items that we see on your forms, and hopefully gives you some clarity around how we will determine warrantability on those items. And we always like to make sure that it is consistent with the current Ontario Building Code, but does not supersede it. So we do urge you to check that out. There is a technical version on Tarion.com, and I'm really excited to talk about a second version that we've launched. It is a test version, so we're looking for your feedback, but it is an illustrated version, and you're able to click on a home and tour through various rooms and click on various items to see if they fall under the construction performance guidelines. So please go check it out.
So I want to just add one thing, and the question came back, is this, what do you have to know whether it's warranted or not? And actually you don't. What you really need to do is list all the things that give you concern. When the issue of warrantability comes in is really when you're asking for a conciliation. So my view is put down all the things that give you concern, let the builder attempt to address them or tell you why he doesn't feel it's there, and then you can make an assessment as to whether you want to put it on your 30-day form or whether it's resolved along the way. And Saloni is right. The CPG guidelines, both of them are terrific, and they give you a guideline of what's there. But my first advice is if something concerns you, put it on your 30-day list. Don't try and get to the point of you determining what's warrantable or not warrantable at that point in time. If it's a concern, put it on the list.
Thanks, Howard. That really resonates with me. I think that's great advice. The starting point is don't worry about it. Put it on the list. Start that process. I think that's really, really good advice. And I think, thanks, Kevin, as well. I think you gave a lot of valuable information about the claims process. I want to move to a live question that just came in. I think this is a question that I'd like the ombudsperson to weigh in on, but first I want to get the panel's perspective on it. So I'm going to put it to the panel, and then I'll ask the ombudsperson to weigh in. Here's the question that came in. What happens when we have a problem with the way Tarion is treating us, the consumer? Who do we turn to for answers and protection? I think it's a fair question. Often we focus on our role in terms of dealing with deficiencies and communicating with homeowners and home builders, but we are also a service provider to consumers, and they're asking, what do they do when they have a problem with us? So maybe I could put that to Howard first to start the conversation.
I would say, this is a two-step process. And the first step is if you feel that you're not getting what you feel you should, you're not getting the service, there's something there, I think you have an obligation to raise it within Tarion. You can take it to the manager of the field rep, the manager can take it up to the director, or you can take it to Kevin's level. And in fact, I think some consumers will tell you that I even get involved in their issues every once in a while. And I think if you're still not satisfied, you need some more clarity along the way. We have an independent ombudsperson's office who can guide you through some of the process. So I always encourage people to say, look, if you're not satisfied, if you think something wrong, do not hesitate to attempt to escalate it up through the organization. And you can also use the ombudsperson's office both as a resource, as another way to have somebody review your file for fairness. And I'd look for Jill's opinion on the process.
Thanks, Howard. Our office is certainly there to help homeowners who feel that they haven't been treated right by Tarion. That's our job, is to make sure that Tarion treats homeowners fairly. However, as Howard pointed out, we do need to give Tarion an opportunity to address homeowner concerns first. So once you've talked to Tarion and you've brought your concerns forward to Tarion, if you still feel that Tarion is treating you unfairly, then please, absolutely, come to our office, give us a call, send us an email. We'll be happy to review your file and determine whether or not you have in fact been treated unfairly. And if you have, we'll find remedies and we'll work on some resolutions with you.
Thank you, Jill. One of the questions that we received, though, and I want to keep the dialogue with you on this point, is what do you say to the homeowner who asks us, how can I be sure the ombudsperson is independent? It's the ombudsperson's office is part of Tarion. How can I be sure that there's enough independence there to feel like I'm being treated fairly? So that actually was a question that we received in advance. It's a question I've heard before. So how do you respond to that?
That's a very good question, Peter, because independence is one of the key principles of the Ombud's work. And our office maintains our independence through our really strong terms of reference, and that outlines both structural and procedural independence for our office. So structurally, the office reports directly to the board of directors and does not report to Tarion's management team. Through the board of directors, through the consumer committee, we negotiate our annual budget, we review the terms of reference annually, and we also have at least 4 in-camera sessions with the board of directors each year. In terms of working, the way that the office works is that as the ombudsperson, I have sole discretion to determine which cases we take on and how we deal with them. In addition to that, I have the ability to initiate investigations on my own authority. If I see a concern, I will look into it, I'll do an investigation, and I'll figure out how to rectify it.
Okay, thank you. The next question that I wanted to go to is about delayed closing. And the question that came in was, what are the terms under which delayed closing is determined? Is it the number of times a closing is moved, or the number of days moved since the original closing date? I think it's a fair question about some confusion that could arise there. Kevin, are you able to take us through that?
With delayed closing, one of the important things is within your agreement of purchase and sale, there's going to be a document that's called the Tarion Addendum, and it's also going to have some critical dates in it. And so with regards to that question, there is a possibility that there is delayed closing compensation available to homeowners, and it is when a builder has set a firm closing date and they haven't been able to deliver the product on that firm closing date. And it's then calculated, the compensation is then calculated based on the number of days that they've missed that firm closing date, and it's $150 per day up to a maximum of 50 days, which would result in a maximum total delayed closing compensation of $7,500.
I'd also like to point out that Ontario is the only jurisdiction that offers delayed closing, delayed occupancy compensation along the way. And I often say this to some homeowners that I talk to, before you get too wrapped up about delayed occupancy, delayed closing, have a conversation with your builder. Find out what the delays are and what the rationale is. You need to plan. You need to have a good understanding. Yes, the compensation is important, but the best part is to have a good conversation with your builder. Last year we had an issue with a shortage of trades. There was a trade strike and people didn't come back on time, and it caused a fair number of delayed occupancy and delayed closings along the way. And I'm sure there was a lot of compensation that was paid, but I think the frustration was probably the worst part felt by consumers. So we really encourage a broad conversation about how can we make this experience better for both consumers and homeowners. There are going to be issues that are going to cause delays. Some things are out of the control of builders, and some things are within the control of things, but things just happen along the way. So I really do encourage a good conversation between the purchaser and the vendor about delayed closing, delayed occupancy. And I point out that the warranty we provide on this one is the only one in Canada.
And one other thing I'd like to add there, Howard, is, and you touched on it a bit there, you talked about unavoidable delays. And so there may be circumstances too, and I talked about, the potential compensation that you may be entitled to, depending on if there's an unavoidable delay as well, that may result in you not getting compensation. So an unavoidable delay could be a trade strike, it could be a fire, it could be a flood. Basically, an unavoidable delay is something that was outside of the builder's control, and if they notified you properly, that will come into the determination of whether or not you're entitled to compensation.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to move to a couple of questions we received in advance that relate to board governance. I think I'll put this question to Paul and Howard to deal with. The first question we received relates to consumer representation on the board. The question was, who are the consumer members of Tarion's board, and what are their qualifications to represent consumer interests? We heard a little bit about the governance structure already, but I think this is a fair question. I've heard it before as well, and Paul, maybe you could speak to the point.
Sure, thanks, Peter. I guess to highlight first, all board members have a duty and serve to further Tarion's consumer protection mandate. In essence, all board members are consumer members. And of course, consumer concerns and issues are important to policy decisions, policy development, and there's various ways that we bring these concerns back to the board. We discussed some of them in our opening remarks. Of course, we have the Office of the Ombudsperson, we have the Consumer Committee, and we have the, of course, we have the Consumer Advisory Council. And as mentioned, the Consumer Advisory Council is made up of members who have a vast experience in warranty issues, warranty processing issues, in the new home buying sort of industry. All of them have experience in going through the process of buying a new home. We have the likes of home inspectors, former building officials, real estate lawyers. So we have some great experience on that council that feeds in all consumer-related issues back to the Consumer Committee and then back to the larger board.
Thanks, Paul. I think that's important that you touch on tools that both the board and Tarion use to get feedback from consumers. I wonder, either Howard or Saloni, if you can expand on that.
I'll let Saloni speak to some of the research and the materials we gather in, but I'd also like to add a couple of other points. We have what I call is a board that's made up of 16 individuals. 5 of them are appointed by the Minister of Government and Consumer Services along the way. 3 of them are selected for their skill set. They're based on what skills they bring to the table, and by bylaw, none of them can have an affiliation with the building industry itself. So we've got 8 people that are there. The other 8 come from the industry that's regulated. They come through a nomination process to the Ontario Home Builders Association. And I will also say, in my experience, is that you should not dismiss how much builders care about customers and consumer service. In fact, in many respects, bad customer service or bad consumer service damages their reputation. And my experience is that a great many of them really care about the reputation of the industry, and that's why they're involved in things like Tarion, is to make sure we have that. So I truly agree with Paul. All our members have a consumer bent. All of them are trying to do what's right for Tarion along the way. And my experience in 10 years has been this board has not divided itself among non-builders voting against builders or builders. They coalesce around issues and ideas and programs that they think are important for the organization. We do a lot of research in terms of what consumers are interested in to gather data. Maybe Saloni can talk a little bit about that.
Thanks, Howard. On an annual basis, we survey, and we use a third-party independent research firm for this. We survey homeowners like yourselves and builders to find out how you felt about our process. And we take that feedback very seriously. The customer satisfaction survey, we use that to not only feed into any of our continuous improvement efforts around policy and process, but were you happy with our service delivery? In our role as regulator, we try to ensure that we're providing continuing education that will help builders raise the bar in their service delivery to you as well. So the feedback that you're providing through these surveys is also used to help educate builders and their staff on how they can provide better service to you and improve the customer experience. In terms of getting more consumer feedback in general, every time we embark on a new policy review process, we do have a formal public consultation process that we use. If you are interested in that, you should check out Tarion.com. We actually are currently looking for feedback on the construction performance guidelines that I spoke to earlier. There are 9 items that are up for written submissions. And if you are a homeowner, we're especially looking for your feedback, and we'll be conducting a targeted consultation in the coming weeks. So please let us know, contact us if you are interested in that.
I just want to add one last thing, and I want to be clear. I failed to mention, ours is a policy board. It's not somebody that gets involved. Day-to-day issues, consumer decisions about warranted or not warranted are never discussed at the board level. Ours is strictly a policy board, and frankly, I think it's a pretty effective board.
Okay, thank you, Howard, and thank you, Saloni, for talking about the ways in which we get consumer feedback. I want to stay on the governance issue just for a little bit. It may be that we cover ground that you just spoke to, so this may be a little bit repetitive, but I think it's important because we received more than one question on this issue. The first question that we were just talking about was from the perspective of who's representing consumer interest, and you heard the answer. The second question was the flip side of that, and it was pretty blunt. The question that was asked was, how can you protect new home buyers when you have a board made up mostly of builders? Again, I think it's an important issue to deal with, so I want to stick with it, even though I think you gave you kind of covered some of the territory. But if I put that question to you, Howard, what would you say? What would you say to a homeowner who raised their hand and says, "Hey, you keep saying you're a consumer protection organization. How can you do it when your board is mostly builders?"
So I'll start with, again, the composition of the board. It's 16 members, so the majority of the board is not made up of builders along the way. It doesn't deal with warranty issues. It deals with policy issues along the way. And we have a very strong, clear mandate that the role of the organization is towards consumer protection. So I think those things are there. And I think the other side of this is you need to look at what policies have been passed by the board. So if you look at issues about increased deposit protection, you look at issues about covering of condominium conversions, you look at issues in terms of making sure at one point in time, if an item of major structural defect was reported after 2 years, it would be the responsibility of Tarion to fix with no recourse against the builders. The builders, in terms of our board unanimously voted to change that responsibility to hold builders accountable for that. So to me, that's a really clear example of doing what's right for consumers. And I think if you look through a number of the policies, the programs, some of the consultations that Saloni leads through us, we've always taken a view of doing what's right for consumers along the way. And I think the evidence supports it. So I understand where the questions come from. We do get this question. I think there is an optical issue that people do see. But I think the practical side of it is our board is very focused on doing what's right for consumers. And I think their actions speak louder.
Thank you for that, Howard. Now I'm going to ask a question that we received in advance, and it was about kind of the evolution of Tarion's regulatory role that we see coming forward with the consumer protection legislation that was recently passed. This is a very specific question, and it has to do with the Ontario Builder Directory. So I'll read the question. Since the government has stated Tarion's regulatory role will be changed, what will become of the Ontario Builder Directory on Tarion's website? Consumers who use this as a tool to search builder track records should be informed. So I think I'd like to ask Saloni if you could speak to that a little bit, and maybe start with an explanation for those at home who may not know what it is, an explanation of what the Ontario Builder Directory is.
Thanks, Peter. The Ontario Builder Directory is a very significant tool that we, as the regulator of the industry, are very proud to showcase on our website. And we hope that it is a valuable tool, not just for new homeowners, but for other industry partners like realtors, real estate lawyers, and municipal building officials. If you're wondering if a builder is licensed in the province of Ontario, and remember, it is the law in order to be able to build and sell a brand new home in the province, you must be licensed. If you go on the directory, you're able to see if the builder that you are looking to sign a contract with is in fact a licensed builder in our province. That is really important. And we want to make sure that you're protected in the deal that you make and before you engage in business and hand over your life savings, essentially, while you're building your dream of a home for your family. What I'm excited to talk about, and I'm sure I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, is in our commitment to transparency and accountability. In fact, as the regulator, we've added more enhancements to this builder directory. And not only can you see if a builder is licensed, but you're able to see and search by civic address or lot number in a municipality if the home is in fact enrolled. And what does that mean? That is your way of also checking if the home still has warranty coverage. And this is especially helpful for those of you that may be second purchasers of a home, because the warranty on a home is not on the homeowner in terms of the first purchaser, but it carries on for 7 years on that home, no matter how many times it is sold to a new owner. So I hope that answered the question about what the Ontario Builder Directory does, and hopefully a great tool for consumers and our industry partners to make sure that people are protected and have the right research resources before they enter into a deal. In terms of how this will be impacted in the future, I think it's been pretty clear that this is very much a valuable tool as the regulator, and I can't foresee a world where there won't be something as important as the Ontario Builder Directory. Will it still be called that? We don't know, but we do know that we are housing very important information for the public in the public interest, and we do foresee that continuing in the future.
Thank you, Saloni. I've got a question that came in live, and I want to go to that here. And this is a policy question, but it does deal with our warranty process. And so the question is, To file a conciliation request, consumers have to pay money. And this provides a hesitation because in most cases there is an uncertainty if the house issue is minor or major, that would be covered under Tarion warranty. So this is a specific question around the conciliation fee, the fee that a homeowner will have to pay before a physical inspection will occur. And it's a question I've heard before. I think it's a fair question to ask what's the purpose of that policy, or how does it affect the process? Kevin, can you speak a little bit to the issue of the fee that relates to conciliation, maybe explain it and give some background to it?
So I touched on it earlier that, after the builder repair period of the 120 days, that it's the homeowner's responsibility during that next 30-day period to request a conciliation, to actually have Tarion get involved officially, to actually come out to your house to rule on an item, whether it's warranted or not. And so that's an expectation of the homeowner. So the homeowner does have to call in to us or schedule it online. We have a great online scheduling tool. About 60% of our conciliations are now scheduled online. So we're proud of the fact that people can schedule it because it allows them to pick the time and the date that they are wanting to do that. So it is a requirement to request a conciliation. You do have to pay a fee of $250 plus HST, but I would look at that more as a deposit as opposed to a fee. And the reason why I say that is the majority of the time that money is actually refunded back to the homeowner. And when I say majority of the time, I'm referring to probably around 90% of the time that money is paid back. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is there's about in 2017, there was about 5,500 requests for conciliations. And the number of conciliations that actually went ahead, and when I mean went ahead, that means a Tarion inspector, field representative, actually came out to your house to review those items. So from 5,500 that were requested, only about 1,500 went ahead. And so there's about 4,000 of them that got canceled. And there's many reasons why they got canceled. One, the builder would have rectified the items during that period. So, you requested conciliation today. Chances are it's going to be 35, 40 days before the actual inspection is done. So there's an additional 35, 40 days for a builder to actually resolve those items. But what also happens during that time frame is there's a process that we call work to file. So a Tarion representative, whether it's a field representative or one of our coordinators, will actually contact both the builder and the homeowner to discuss the issues with them, to help get a better understanding of why the homeowner believes that the item still isn't repaired, or talk to the builder about exactly why they feel that they don't need to repair that item. And so, about 4,000 times it's canceled. And as long as the homeowner cancels it at least 24 hours prior to the conciliation, they'll get their money back. And so that's part of the reason why the actual refund of money, 90%, is so high. The other reason is the fact that if we do go ahead with that conciliation, so about 1,500 times during 2017 we did that, we go out to the house, we review the items, whether it's one item or 50 items, and as long as as long as our field representative determines that at least one of those items, no matter how minor it is, but as long as one of those items is found to be warranted, the homeowner gets their money back as well. So let's say there's 50 items that you wanted us to look at, and one of them is warranted, you get your money back. And so that's the other piece of why the refund of that money is so high. So it's kind of a two-prong approach. The other thing too is we always have a technical desk too. So a homeowner can always call in. So as much as they may be dealing with a coordinator or the field rep that's going to be assigned to their file that's going to actually come out to their house, they can also talk to our field rep. They can go to as Sully mentioned earlier, they can go to the construction performance, look at the construction performance guidelines as well to give them a really good indication of whether or not something is going to be warranted. At the end of the day, our field rep will not give you a definitive answer because at the end of the day, they're going to want to actually look at the item prior to saying whether it's warranted or not. But the majority of the time, the homeowner gets their fees back. The only other point that I'd like to point out as well is that if we do go out to that conciliation and we find at least one warranted item, the builder's actually charged $1,000 plus HST. If we go out there and there's no warranted items, then the builder's not going to be charged a fee. So as much as there's a charge or a deposit for a homeowner, the majority of the time they get it back. There's also a charge to the builder if we do find a warranted item.
Kevin, I've often heard stories that $1,000 charges cause builder to undertake minor repairs that they may not think is warranted along the way. I know it acts as an incentive, and some don't want to take a chance. What's your experience or view on that?
That's certainly what I've heard as well, Howard, and it makes sense because, things aren't necessarily black and white. Just like the homeowner may not be 100% sure that something's going to be warranted or not, the builder's going to have the same view. As much as they've built many homes before, as much as there's construction performance guidelines, I'm going to say when you're building a house, things aren't exactly going to be the same every single time you build a house. So a builder thinking, geez, I don't want to run the risk of having to pay $1,000, will likely go ahead and even fix items that maybe they're not sure if it's warranted or not, but they'll actually go far and above what they typically would actually fix.
Okay, thank you, Howard and Kevin. I think there's a lot of valuable information there. I've got another question that just came in, and this is also a claims-oriented question, so I'm going to read it out and maybe start again with Kevin. Here's the question. I purchased my home in 2013. I've been having water seeping into the basement from outside during bouts of rain. What are my options regarding this? So, Kevin, if that was a call you received or a question you were asked, what's your answer?
So if you took possession of your home in 2013, you still have some warranty on the house. We've talked about it briefly before. You do have a major structural defect warranty, MSD warranty, and that goes for 7 years from the date of possession. So there is still warranty left on the house. Is water penetration a major structural defect? There is a possibility. So there is a possibility that it could fall into the definition of a major structural defect. If that water is going to make the home uninhabitable, that's going to fall into one of the definitions of something that could fall into the major structural defect. But it really is going to come back down to something that I'd tell any homeowner. If you're unsure, give us a call. First of all, call your builder. Call your builder and let them know that you're having an issue with your house. I'm going to tell you a lot of builders would actually go and resolve issues. Depending on what the issue is, you could then call Tarion and you can talk to our technical rep. But at the end of the day, you can put it on a major structural defect form. That is your right to do that. And then we could always come out and inspect it as well. But 2013 home still has some warranty. Major water penetration, there's a possibility it could be a major structural defect, but it's certainly one of those things that we would have to get some more information. So I would strongly suggest anytime or anybody that has an issue, certainly call in to Tarion.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kevin. I think that's that's good advice to always check with the builder and check with Tarion. But when you say that, when you talk about there still being warranty on the home, maybe you could take us through what are the warranties and what are the warranties that would typically relate to water penetration, just so we can be clear about that.
So the warranties on the home are there's three types of warranties. There's the first-year warranty, the second-year warranty, and the 7-year warranty, also known as the major structural defect warranty. The first-year warranty covers defects in workmanship and material. It covers OVC violations. If you had water penetration, once again, more than likely it's going to be something that's going to fall within that warranty. But I can only stress this enough. As much as you have a warranty on your home, you have to put it on a form. You have to put it on a form. You have to request the conciliation if you're wanting Tarion to get involved in the process. The second-year warranty, it comes with is distribution systems, whether it's your heating, your electrical, your plumbing. It also deals with water penetration through the building envelope, water penetration through the foundation. So once again, there certainly is a strong possibility that water penetration could fall into those warranties. Once again, make sure you put it on your form. Make sure you request conciliation if it's not being resolved. And then the last warranty is the major structural defect warranty, which I just talked about before. Is there can be instances when water penetration could fall within the 7-year warranty. If you're not sure, check our construction performance guidelines, but certainly call us, certainly talk to your builder.
Kevin, in speaking to homeowners, and sometimes you get, I was recently in Ottawa, and a homeowner showed me a picture of their home and said, this is a major structural defect. And the answer I always give back sometimes is, it depends. And it depends on what's causing it and what the issue is. So I think your advice really is to go and call your builder, see if they can come in and sort it out and decide what's there. Secondly, contact Tarion, get information, because it still could fall within the warranty. We can't tell unless you know what the source of the issue is, and you won't be able to tell that until you see it firsthand and in person. And I will throw in one more thing. I always like to say, don't forget the deposit protection warranty. So while we have 3 warranties, first year, second year, and 7 year, we also have the very important deposit protection warranty that starts when you immediately put deposit down on a new home.
I think that's really a helpful outline. And just to summarize as a reminder, we've got various warranties. There's information available on the website, in the homeowner information package, and other places. In fairness, I think it's accurate to say that those warranties, Kevin, the first year and second year warranty are wider in scope than the major structural defect warranty. Is that fair?
They're wider in scope, and they certainly are wider in scope specifically for water penetration.
Yeah, so it may be a challenging situation given the age of the home here, but again, I think the recommendation is talk to your builder and talk to Tarion. The next question I wanted to get to was one of the questions around dispute resolution, and it was a straightforward question around the independence of our dispute resolution processes. Now, we've already had a question around the ombudsperson's role, and Jill has spoken to what makes the ombudsperson independent. This question's a bit different. I think it's aimed at our claims process, and the question is your dispute resolution, full stop, is that independent of Tarion? And if it is, how? So I think that's an interesting question. Kevin, do you want to take a shot at responding to that?
So there's many aspects to the dispute resolution at Tarion. I briefly touched on some of those already about how staff at Tarion deal with the dispute resolution, whether it's through conciliation inspections, investigative inspections, early intervention, mediation. These are all services that we provide that are part of the dispute resolution process. But there is an aspect that a consumer can go to as well, and it is independent. So Howard talked earlier about how you escalate. If you're not happy with our processes, you can escalate it within Tarion, or you can go to the ombudsperson's office. But there's another avenue as well that is completely independent of Tarion, and that's the License Appeal Tribunal. So if we go out, we do a conciliation, we make an assessment, and we say an item is not warranted, the indirect escalation within Tarion can be done. But if you're still not happy with that, there's an independent party called the License Appeal Tribunal that is funded and is under the auspices of the Attorney General, and it's an avenue that actually can overturn Tarion's decisions. So it is completely independent, and I actually believe in Canada we're the only warranty program that actually has an independent party that can look at our dispute resolution process and the decisions that we make as well.
Thanks, Kevin. So you're describing it, it's almost on a scale. There are elements of our dispute resolution which are internal to Tarion within the warranty processes. Then there's the ombudsperson, which we've heard about already, that has its own kind of independence. And then there is escalation to a tribunal, which is completely external. So I think that's a helpful way of looking at it, and I appreciate that answer. I have another question that came in live. This is very kind of short and to the point, and I think it's a question I've heard before, and I think it's an important one. I'd like to direct it first to Howard, but I invite anyone on the panel to speak to it. And the question is, how do you discipline builders? So how does the Ontario New Home Warranty Program, how does Tarion, when it wants to, or when there is a reason to put some sort of control or sanction on a registered builder, how does it do that? Okay. Howard?
So let's start with the ultimate hammer that Tarion has, which is a revocation of a builder's license, which would cause it to no longer be able to build. In order to get to that level, we would have to go before the License Appeal Tribunal, the same tribunal that Kevin described, which is independent of Tarion, and make a case that that builder's livelihood should be removed on the basis of what's there. So what I'm saying is, in order to get to that level, it has to be some pretty extreme circumstances, and Tarion has to present a pretty compelling case to get a decision to remove somebody's license. The next aspect to it is Tarion can impose certain terms and conditions on a builder. What does terms and conditions mean? Probably the two that would mean the most is to say, okay, either you're compelled to take a certain degree of training or remediation or to do something along the way or have a second-hand inspection along the way before you can build, or alternatively to say you need to put up more security or to take courses along the way. So there's a number of different educational or remedial tools that Tarion has before it would go to necessarily a revocation along the way. So Tarion's got a responsibility to look at what the conduct of the builder is. And we get this all the time. We have a process, and Kevin or Saloni can speak to, where we say, look, in order to be a builder, you have to have technical competence, you have to have financial capacity, and you have to operate within a degree of honesty and integrity. The gray area is, what does honesty and integrity really mean? I think everybody can have a lot of different definitions of it. Sometimes I hear from consumers say, look, my builder hasn't made a single appointment they're supposed to make. They're always canceling. I think I would have trouble revoking somebody's license in front of the License Appeal Tribunal on that basis. But there's a lot of other causes and reasons that get to that level that's there. So we have to look as the regulatory side of what the conduct of the builder is, what's the appropriate sort of condition or remedy that's there, and in some cases the behavior is so egregious that there's nothing left but to revoke the person's license. I'll let Saloni or Kevin see if they want to add anything to that.
I was just going to jump in and say, Howard has addressed the requirements that we now have in place around a certain level of professionalism to get into the door and become a licensed builder. But I think it's important to understand that we also have an annual renewal process, and it doesn't matter how long you've been a licensed builder, how many homes a year that you build. Every single builder in this province does have to go through an annual renewal process. Why is that important in terms of the degrees of potential sanctions that we do look at if there are behaviors? Is we continue to look at their financial records. But most importantly, we also look at their customer service records. Their claims, your claims experience, your warranty experience with your builder goes onto their record. There are customer service standards that we are monitoring and that are part of their builder record that we look at on an annual basis, and that does feed into how we believe they're performing and whether there does need to be continuing education or more serious sanctions along the way.
Yeah, and I'll just add a few things there as well, Saloni. Is you're absolutely right that there's an annual review of every single registered builder with us, but that doesn't mean that if something bad happens, Howard talked about something egregious. If something was to happen a month after a renewal of the builder, that doesn't mean we're going to wait 11 months before we then talk to the builder and say, hey, you know what, you did something really bad there, but you got away with it for 11 months. So yes, every builder goes through an annual review, but it's one of those things, if something comes up during that 12-month period that you've been renewed for, we would certainly take action on the licensing and underwriting side of things. And just to add, Howard, you talked about extra security, revocation. Another thing is we could limit the number of homes as well. So that's another term and condition that could be assigned to a builder if for various reasons. And the only other thing I'll talk about is when you're saying what can we do. You heard I talked earlier about the fact that a builder gets charged $1,000 if we end up doing a conciliation and we find a warranted item. So there are monetary penalties at times as well.
Kevin, I think that's a good lead to a couple of questions about the claims process that we received in advance. So I'm really staying on this topic of discipline of the builder. I'm just going to ask you a series of questions here. One question that came in was this. what if my builder doesn't show up after I submit my 30-day form? What rights do I have to get the work done if the builder doesn't show up?
So whether it's your 30-day form, whether it's your year-end form, whether it's your second-year form, whether it's your MSD form, it's going to be the same process in the fact that it's great that you've put it on a form, that you've submitted it to Tarion. One thing that I will talk about that hasn't come up yet is hopefully you're going to submit that through My Home. My Home is our in-house electronic process where you can submit a form, you go online and you submit all your defects. About 95% of the forms that we receive are done through My Home, so that's great. The reason why it's great is it keeps track of all your items, but it also gives you reminders. It reminds you of certain timelines and when you have to request those conciliations. And so, you talked about submitting that 30-day form. The builder does have 120 days. I talked before about the fact that then there is that requirement that you do have to request that conciliation to have Tarion get involved right then and there. But if you've submitted that 30-day form and the builder isn't contacting you, you're sending them emails, you're calling them, you're getting no response, certainly call us. Certainly call us. I briefly talked about that there are other tools that we have. Early intervention is one that, maybe there's a breakdown in the communication between the builder and the homeowner. Maybe we can get involved a little bit earlier to try to get that communication back on track. I touched on it a little bit earlier. If you do have a 30-day form, or year-end or second-year MSD, and there are emergencies or there are health and safety issues, you're not going to have to wait that 120 days. Certainly call Tarion. Let us know that you're having issues with the builder. We can certainly reach out to that builder and try to get things back on track, because the majority of times, builders are going to repair most items within that 120-day period.
I wanted to add in, I think this is kind of a repetitive theme, but a very important one. We have an established relationship with our registrants, so even if it is not through a formal process like early intervention, there are times, because we do take customer experience very seriously, that if a builder is not getting back to you just on the basis of timeliness and responsiveness, we have no problem picking up the phone and saying, why is your office's voicemail box full, or what the heck? So please do call us. And I do want to reiterate something that Kevin has said and Howard around contacting the builder, and that the majority of builders do fulfill their obligation to you as a homeowner during the 120-day period. I think an important distinction to make is that Tarion is here to backstop the builder's warranty. It is the builder's warranty. It is their product. It is a very expensive and emotional relationship that you've embarked upon with your builder. And so we encourage you to continue to work with them every step of the way. We want to be the last resort stop. And we believe that is what happens for the majority of the time. I believe last year in 2017, we had 55,000 forms come in. Out of those forms, only 1,500 approximately ended up in a conciliation inspection. And once again, having Tarion step in and fulfill the claim to you is the last resort when a builder is unwilling or unable to fulfill their obligation to you or make those repairs in the 120 days. And that was 638 claims. And once again, Paul had mentioned much earlier this evening that in every given year, there's around 400,000 homes under warranty.
Thank you, Saloni. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge, earlier on in the piece, we went through some general questions and answers around cancellation of projects. And I just want to acknowledge that I'm getting some live questions here that are very specific about cancellation. The tenor is that some of you aren't satisfied with the completeness of the answers given on that subject. But the questions that I'm seeing are very specific to an actual file. So I'm not going to put those questions directly to the panel at this time, in keeping with the general points I made about not getting into a specific file, but I want to convey to those folks out there that are sending those questions in. As we committed to earlier, we will endeavor to answer every question directly, and we will be following up with you directly with respect to your specific file to answer your question as best we can. So with that, I want to move to another area of questioning which we received. There was recently a lot of extreme weather in the province, and a lot of people had questions about their roofs and what's the impact on their roof and what actually is the warranty and how does the warranty relate to and respond to roofing issues. So let me put that question directly to the panel, maybe to Kevin. It's in the area of warranty process. What is and can you describe how does the warranty on roofs operate?
Well, roofing is certainly a very general term. One could think that there's different aspects of a roof that could fall under different parts of the warranty. So if you think about shingles, there's a chance that shingles could be fall under the first, or you could list that on a 30-day form or a year-end form. Some people get the misconception about shingles. You'll see that there's a manufacturer's warranty of 15 or 20 years. And it's one of those things that your home may come with products that have different warranties and different manufacturing warranties. But when it comes to the warranty that Tarion provides that's backstopping your builder's warranty, typically the shingles would be something that you could put on your 30-day or your year-end list. And to follow through with that. With regards to water penetration through the roof, that's certainly something, I talked earlier that it could be a 1-year or a 2-year warranty. In the rare cases, maybe it's an MSD warranty. And then obviously in the MSD warranty, there could be roofing issues as well, whether there could be some structural issues there. So when you're talking about roofing, it could fall under all three of the warranties. I think you've heard the theme that we've talked about before tonight. If you're not sure, you have the construction performance guidelines, contact your builder, put it on a form, and certainly call us. We have a lot of technical representatives that you can talk about some of your specific issues with regards to your roof, and we can give you some guidance of how you should pursue those.
I think, this is a great example of, especially when you've referenced extreme weather, where we would have to look at something on a case-by-case basis. Extreme weather, there could be an assessment that determines it's an act of God. But I do know in the recent ice storm, there was an example where someone had already reported that shingles were in a precarious position on their 30-day form, and then a week later with the ice storm, some flew off. So obviously there was an underlying element that we did need to look at. So it is important to put it on the form and make sure that we have the ability to make that case-by-case assessment.
And I think maybe just to add to the act of God comment, the reason why that has been brought up is if you actually look at our act, that is one of the exclusions to warranty. So I just thought I'd add that.
So I'd like to go in a slightly different direction. Many viewers probably don't know that Tarion is assigned on to what's called the Institute of Catastrophic Loss Reduction. So we participate in this group that does a number of studies. Now, a lot of the studies are on water penetration, but there's also work that they do in terms of wind. And I think as an organization, what we've seen recently with the uptick in extreme weather is perhaps we need to actually be a little more involved in making sure we have a better understanding of what the damage is and what the best sort of methodologies and advice we can give builders in terms of dealing with roofing issues. 'Cause I'm sure none of them have been happy. I know a lot of them have gone out to fix problems and have been dealing with issues along the way, but perhaps we can do more too to help better educate on the issue and raise the issues, because I think extreme weather is going to be more the norm today going forward than it was a few years ago.
If I can interject from a board's position, we mentioned consumer issues, new consumer issues like roofing issues as it relates to these type of windstorms we've had lately. These are the type of consumer-related issues that come through the Consumer Advisory Council and through the Consumer Committee are brought to the board. And so the board takes, innovation as it relates to new warranty issues seriously, and that's one of the mechanisms where issues like the roofing issue that's mentioned by this consumer get to the board, and then that's when management and the board work together to come up with a plan.
Well, Paul, maybe I'll kind of stay on that theme with you and ask you, as the chair of the board, from that kind of a policy perspective, what role do you see Tarion or other organizations playing in terms of research or trying to promote education or standards of that kind? How do you see Tarion playing in that space?
Well, I think it starts with partnerships, as Saloni has been discussing in a few of her remarks. The Ontario Building Partnership is a key one where we see the industry coming together with the building officials and Tarion to address the changes that are needed when we're discussing whether they're specific to particular warranty items or to more general policy issues. And the board is definitely involved at a policy level. As mentioned, we keep out of operations, but when it comes to continuous improvement around regulations and new policies that need to be looked at in an ever-changing environment, that is one that we're dealing with right now, whether it be cancellations or weather-related new warranty issues. I think we have a great team between the board and management that takes this sort of very active and engaged approach to making the changes that are needed.
Thanks, Paul. I want to take us from that larger strategy piece back down to just roofs again, because I have a question that was raised in advance that I just want to put to Kevin before we kind of move on to another topic. So this is the question that was asked. I've had ongoing problems with my roof from day one. This is a homeowner's question. Tarion's representatives do not go up on roofs to inspect them. So how do they complete these inspections? I have 3 leaks. What can Tarion do to help me? I think that's a fair question. Kevin, how would you respond to that if that was put to you?
So our field reps, for safety reasons, don't go up on roofs. And we actually made a policy change a number of years ago. So what would have happened a number of years ago is our field rep would go out to do a conciliation. They would get there. The homeowner would say, I have a problem with my roof. It's leaking. Builder hasn't fixed it. Our rep would be like, okay, not going on the roof for safety reasons. I'm going to have to put this under investigation. I'm then going to have to go and hire a third-party consultant, roofer, contractor that Tarion would hire to go up and to actually look at the details, to give us those details so we can make the assessment. So now what we do is, if we're going out to a conciliation and we do know the fact that that's going to be the item that we're looking at that's being disputed by the homeowner, we'll actually go out and make sure that we have that third-party consultant come with us in the first place, so that there doesn't have to be 2 visits. It's going to be 1 visit. So we'll go out there, we'll have that contractor go on the roof for us, take the pictures, look at things, give us the information, and then we'll make the assessment at that point in time. And so, it comes back to the fact that, homeowners, if you feel that you have leaks, certainly put it on a form, contact us, and then, deal with the builder as well. But if we're going out there to do an inspection, we don't go on the roofs. We hire somebody to go on the roofs for us, but we will still make the assessment at the end of the day.
Thanks, Kevin. I've got, I'm going to move off of the roof topic. I've got a question here that I think goes directly to the ombudsperson. So I'll ask this question and then pass it to Jill to respond. This is a homeowner question. The homeowner is saying straight out, I called the ombudsperson's office. I called them to complain about my warranty assessment, and you turned around and just sent me back to Tarion. Why? So, Jill, you may have actually received that question. I don't know, but how would you answer that?
Well, it goes back to what Howard was saying earlier, and what I talked about a little bit earlier, is that it's an office of last resort. So if you're having a problem with Tarion, you really you need to address it with Tarion first. And once you've been through the Tarion process and you've raised your concerns with Tarion, given them an opportunity to actually address them. And if you still feel that you are not being treated fairly, that's the time to come to us. And once you come to us, once you've been through Tarion, we're absolutely happy to look at your file and determine whether or not you have been treated unfairly.
Thank you, Jill. And I've got another question. Maybe it's on the same area, but the question is, can your office change the outcome of a warranty assessment?
Well, the short answer is no, we can't. Our job is not to determine whether or not a decision is correct, but to determine whether or not it's fair. So because of that, we don't change warranty decisions and we don't make warranty decisions. What we do is we look at the warranty decision and we determine if it's fair and if it was fairly arrived at. If we find that there are fairness issues, then we'll look for remedies to rectify those issues. Those remedies that we might recommend a reinspection or a desk assessment, or possibly that some new information be considered. But the important thing to remember for homeowners is that we can determine that the decision was fair, and you can still disagree with it. That becomes a warranty dispute and not a fairness issue. So the proper forum for disputing warranty issues is the License Appeal Tribunal. So if it comes down to that, we've decided that the decision is fair, you still don't agree with it, then we will send you to the License Appeal Tribunal.
Okay, Jill, I want to stay on this topic for a second. If a homeowner calls you in your office and you make recommendations, or you do an assessment, you make recommendations around the fairness, you've talked about some of the kinds of recommendations that you made. Does it happen that because of your recommendations, the decision that Tarion made changes as a result?
It can happen. If we're recommending a reinspection, most of the time Tarion will go out and do the reinspection, and sometimes the assessment will change. Sometimes it won't. But usually, if we're recommending an action of some sort, it's because we've seen something in the file that is an issue, and Tarion usually will recognize that, and they'll want to make it right. So sometimes, yes, the decision will change as a result of our recommendation.
Now, you may not be able to do this, and I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't have an example. But do you have an example that you could talk about in this public forum that could illustrate what you mean? Yes. There was a case that came into the office, and the homeowner was disputing the warranty assessment report, and they claimed that they had a report from an engineer that hadn't been taken into consideration as part of the decision. And when we did the file review and we looked at the issues in hand, and we found out that in fact there was an engineer's report. It had been submitted to Tarion, and it had just been misfiled, lost. It hadn't been considered in the decision. So we recommended that there be a reassessment, and that the warranty service rep look at the engineer's report and take it into consideration. And the decision did change as a result. Okay, thank you for that, Jill. I'm just going to go to another question that came in. This relates to the cancellation issue I was discussing before, but I think it's general enough that it's worth raising and discussing with the panel. So we talked about, and we heard some information about the process by which a review could occur when dealing with a conduct of a vendor issue. The question that came in is about timing, and the question is, if a review is being conducted with respect to a vendor, how long does it take to finish? And then there's two parts to the question. The second part is, and after it's finished, what does Tarion do with their findings? Do they make their findings public? So I'm wondering if the panel can speak to that, maybe Howard.
It's difficult to put a time frame on how long a review will take. It would depend on the type of information that's required, how quickly the information is coming forward, and what type of analysis has to happen. So, for example, if somebody said a project was canceled because the municipality didn't approve the design, we'd also want to reach out to the municipality, get confirmation, make sure that everything was copacetic with terms of the answer that's there. So it's difficult to put that into perspective. The second part of this is, would this be public? And the answer to that is no. What the public would hear is either one of two things. If we were dissatisfied, we felt significantly that the answers didn't meet the terms and conditions of the contract, the next step would be for us to address it from a licensing perspective. We would be taking steps, so they might hear that there's a proposal to revoke a license or something regarding the license that's being undertaken along the way. If it's a matter where we've looked at something and we don't feel that there's significant enough issues, it's not our role to make a public statement or declaration. We've done what we're supposed to do. We've checked this off. The remedies, as I said, are covered under the Condominium Act. And under the Condominium Act, the disclosure and other aspects of it would be different. It would be under a judge making a decision. There would probably be examinations for discovery and perhaps orders to comply or provide information along the way. Ours is to review the circumstances to make sure that, from our opinion, the builder took reasonable steps, in our opinion, to cancel the project according to having taken reasonable steps to close it. So the onus is for the builder or developer to close the contract. We want to make sure that their cancellation was in line with what it says within the addendum, and they took all reasonable steps to try and meet that. We wouldn't substitute our decision for their decision along the way, whereas a court might choose to substitute their own decision. So there's a completely different process along the way, and ours is an internal review.
Thank you for that, Howard. I've got another live question. It's moving back to a more claims-related question, and I'm just going to read it to you. Probably, again, start with Kevin, but other members of the panel can weigh in. The question is, I bought my house in 2012. After 2 or 3 years after possession, I noticed some minor cracks and wet floor in the basement. I called the builder, and at that time they told me it was normal. How do I know that these defects are normal? What if it gets worse after the 7 years when the warranty is over? So, question from a homeowner here. They're observing cracks. Their builder is saying it's normal. Their concern is, they're not an expert, so their concern is, what do I do? How can I be sure? And again, I'll start with you, Kevin. If that was a call that you received, what would you say?
A couple things, and you've heard me talk about this before, is, we have people on staff here who are very technical, so you can certainly call in, talk to us from a technical aspect. If I was the homeowner, I would probably certainly be monitoring it. So, if you've been noticing this for a few years, I'd certainly be wanting to know, has it been getting worse over that time? Sometimes you take measurements, sometimes you take pictures. That's certainly a good way to document it. But the other thing, too, is it comes down to, you have a 7-year warranty. Is that going to be something that's going to be covered under the 7-year warranty? Maybe. But it's certainly one of those things that if you're wanting Tarion to get involved in an official capacity, you need to put it on a form. But my advice would be, certainly contact us with some of the details, continue to monitor it, and at the end of the day, if you're wanting Tarion to be involved from an official capacity, certainly put it on a form to follow our typical warranty services claims process.
Thank you, Kevin. The next question still deals with claims issue. This is more related to a condominium situation, and I'll read the question. The builder is claiming our building is ready for occupancy, but the hallways and some of the units are still under construction, and it's making heavy dust and air contamination due to the painting, as well as extreme noise and vibration. I don't think this is an acceptable situation. The city inspection process doesn't seem to be working. What will Tarion do? Kevin, what's your, maybe you can start.
So, there's a bit of a difference with regards to the warranty for condominium units than there is for freehold units. But I guess the first thing I'd want to talk to you about is occupancy, and this is where there's a bit of a difference. Is that the municipality grants occupancy, and so if they've gone out and they've determined that occupancy can be granted, they will grant occupancy. The homeowner will take occupancy, and that's when the warranty will start for a condominium unit. Condominium unit warranty starts upon occupancy, not necessarily title transfer. And so, maybe at the time when the homeowner moved in, the conditions that they were referring to maybe didn't exist. But maybe, over time they did manifest. And the reason why I say that is if you think about a high rise, let's call it a 30 or 40 story condominium, and let's say you're one of the first floors to move in. Chances are you're moving into a construction zone. And there's going to be a lot of work still being done on that building, which could be causing some of these issues that you're raising here. But there are remedies. There's if the condominium is not registered, you're going to be responsible for your unit issues. The common element issues are something that your board of directors is going to have to deal with. If the condominium hasn't been registered yet, they're not going to have a board of directors. So it's one of those things, again, that certainly give us a call. Anything that's health and safety related or emergency related, we would expect a homeowner to call the builder and to call us right away. And, there is a warranty within the first year for fit for habitation. And so, if there are conditions that are not acceptable, we certainly will deal with that as well. But health and safety, emergency issues, contact the builder, contact us, and then we can deal with them.
I'd like to add to that what Kevin has just said. Yes, if it's a health and safety issue, if you believe it is, definitely contact us or your builder. But the reality is your builder wants to finish your unit and move you in as soon as possible into your home. So the common elements aspect, whether it is the hallways, the parking garage, the front entrance, are going to be under construction. It is annoying. It is definitely not pretty, but it is a normal part of the process. As for the municipal aspect, they are fully responsible for determining whether your home, your condominium, is ready for occupancy. And those standards are minimum standards that are set out by the Ontario Building Code, which is set out by the provincial government. And if you have doubts of whether your condominium or home is ready for occupancy, in fact, you should be able to call your local municipality and ask about that. So I would encourage you to do that as well.
And one thing I'll just add too, Sony, you maybe think about it, is when you're talking about the hallways maybe aren't done, common elements aren't done. One thing that you should realize is the warranty starts on your unit when you move into it for occupancy, but the warranty for the common elements actually doesn't start till your condominium is registered. So, you may move in, you may say, well, geez, the hallways are a mess. I got to submit my form. I'm going to lose the warranty because I've been in here for as long. Chances are the warranty for those hallways, which is probably common elements, is not actually going to start until the condominium is registered.
Okay, thanks for that. I want to go to another question that came in live. This is also claims related, and it relates to condominiums. But Kevin, I'm going to give you a break, and I'm going to ask Howard to speak to this, and then you can come in and add if he doesn't cover it all. Here's the question. Relates to deposit coverage. We talked earlier about the freehold deposit warranty and the changes with respect to that. The question is, in condominiums, why doesn't Tarion cover the complete deposit? Only $20,000 is covered.
Great question. The reason it's only $20,000 is under the Condominium Act, there's a requirement for additional deposits to all be held in trust. So for almost all issues, the money that you will put in the thing will be placed in trust with a trustee along the way, and therefore we've only guaranteed $20,000 of that along the way because the balance of it should be in trust. We've only seen one incident where our claim has ever come involved in, and that's where a lawyer absconded with some funds along the way, whereas there were claims that were being paid out by both ourselves and the Law Society in terms of that. But for the most part, it's held in trust, and you should ask who the trustee, who's going to be holding the funds, but we're pretty comfortable that's a very safe place to leave your deposits. And that's different, which freehold doesn't have the requirement for the funds to be held in trust.
So Howard, is it fair to say that when we're talking about condominiums, there's really, and maybe it's even more complicated than what I'm about to say, but that to some extent, is it fair to say that it's really a shared consumer protection between the Ontario, the legislation Tarion operates under and the Condominium Act itself, that it's really shared between the two of them?
Yes, and I think we've talked about that actually in a number of places today. We've talked about the cancellation, where there's aspects of it. Part of it is where the terms and conditions are in the Tarion addendum, but the remedy exists within the Condominium Act. So in this case, the deposit coverage is provided by Tarion, but the vast majority of the deposit coverage is actually provided through the Condominium Act by a requirement to put it in trust. So I think the creators of these regulations thought very deeply about how they work together and how they connect, and I think that's why we see some symmetry between these and how they work together.
Yeah, I think that's one of the themes I'm hearing in a lot of the answers from the panel today, between the roles that the municipality plays, the protection in the Condominium Act and the Tarion warranty. It's fairly, there's a complex kind of set of rules out there that a consumer can look to and should look to. So I think that's an interesting theme, the kind of the holistic nature of that protection. I've got another question. This is a claims-oriented question, and I'll put this one back to Kevin. This is about a landscaping issue. So the question is, our builder put in grass, but it was awful, and now our backyard is uneven, can't walk on it. Is grass covered by the warranty?
So there's a couple of points in that question. Grass is something that more than likely is going to be something that would be covered under either the 30-day, you could put it on a 30-day form or a year-end form. But it also talked about unevenness there, and grading is something that's actually dealt with by the municipality, whereas the grass is something that could fall under our warranty. One thing I will suggest, though, is once the sod is laid, the sod is laid, there is certainly a homeowner maintenance aspect to that. And so, when your builder is laying the sod, they certainly should be giving you some suggestions and some guidance of, what you're supposed to do to maintain it. Because when it was laid, it might have been fine, but if all of a sudden it dies, a day, 2 days, 5 days, a week later, or whatever, there could be a maintenance aspect at it as well. But it certainly is something that could fall under the first-year warranty.
I'd like to add to that this is something unfortunate that you're experiencing, and the timelines around it can sometimes be frustrating as well, because it is very weather dependent. So we do have seasonal aspects to our timelines around the warranty, and you may have to wait for the following spring or summer in order to have this rectified properly in terms of your landscaping. And and to echo what Kevin said about if the underlying issue around the unevenness is grading, you should check your purchase agreement, first of all, for the grading that was approved. And that grading level is approved by your local planning department. So you should also feel free to contact them directly.
Okay, thank you for that, Saloni. And I think maybe we'll stick with you here. I've got a question I'd like to direct to you to answer. This question is asked about a homeowner who has a contract home. They have land, they've contracted with a builder to build a house for them. And the question that they ask is, the builder who completed my contract home has let his Tarion builder registration expire. Does this impact my warranty?
Thanks, Peter. Well, the short answer is no. That's why Tarion is here. We are here to make sure that you have that protection. And I want to go back to something that I mentioned earlier. We are here to backstop the builder's warranty. So if they are no longer licensed or in business, they are still obligated to fulfill their agreement with you and hopefully service the issues that you do have. If for whatever reason that builder is unwilling or unable to fulfill those obligations, once again, that's why we exist, and please contact us directly.
Yeah, the only thing I may add there, Saloni, is a builder has to have a license in the province of Ontario to build and sell. And so they could sell you a home, they could build it to you, and the very next day, they may, maybe they're up for renewal and they're going to say, you know what, this was the only home I wanted to build, or, I don't want to do anymore. I don't need my license anymore. But they're still in business. They're still in business. Maybe they're going to do renovations. They're still going to fulfill all their obligations there. So there are instances, yes, there's sometimes where a builder will go out of business and doesn't have a license, but there's also instances where a builder just chooses for various reasons not to renew their license, but they certainly will come there. The rules still apply to them, meaning you submit your form, meaning they have the builder 120-day repair period, meaning you have to request the conciliation. So all those rules still apply whether the builder has a license or not.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. I've got a question that relates to Tarion's customer service. I think I'd like Howard maybe to speak to this. So the question that's asked is, I've been given to understand that there may be staff shortages at Tarion which are directly affecting service quality. Maybe I'll just stop there and ask Howard, do you have a response to that? The implication is that there may be a staff issue and that there may be customer service impacts. How do you measure that? How do you deal with that? Is that happening?
So like any organization, organizations have annual turnover rates. Our annual turnover rate for this year is in the norms of what it's been for the last 2 years. We're not experiencing any extra turnover. We're bringing this, so our turnover rates are pretty good. We're recruiting at a pretty hectic pace in terms of where we are, because we want to make sure that we don't have any gaps in our services. I would apologize to this homeowner if they felt that they weren't getting the service that they felt they should be getting along the way. We're at relatively full staff. We intend to remain at relatively full staff, and if there are any particular concerns about servicing, I'm happy to address them on a personal basis or have our Vice President of Human Resources respond. But our view is we're pretty close to full staff. We're probably never at full staff in terms of turnover ratios, but we're pretty close.
Okay, thank you, Howard. We're coming to towards the end of this session. It's been a long time, and I appreciate the focus and attention that the panel has brought to bear on the questions we've dealt with. Before we end, though, I think I want to keep it with you, Howard. Maybe I'd invite you to say a few words in closing, if you have any final thoughts you want to share with the panel or with the audience about 2017 or things going forward. So let me just ask you, Howard, is there anything you want to end on?
Well, let me start with 4 points. The first point is I want to thank everybody for joining in and spending a beautiful evening with us, and a beautiful evening I spent what it was like outside. This is a great opportunity for us. My honest sense is after 10 years here, I still often feel Tarion is a very misunderstood organization. There's an expectation that we can be everything to everybody, and we can't. I think we have the finest warranty program in the country, maybe in North America, maybe even in the world. We do a lot of good for consumers. We try and help them. But every time I go out and talk to people, there is some confusion. Maybe some of that is on us. We do have a forms-driven system that has process within it, and maybe we need to look at how do we make that better along the way. But we are dedicated to being a consumer protection organization, and we're really trying to do our best we can in that regard. So I look forward to these opportunities to talk about what Tarion does, how we operate, how we can make Tarion better. The second aspect I want to talk about is we've talked a little bit today that that home building is a holistic issue. When you look at who regulates it, it's not just Tarion. There's aspects of it that deal with the municipalities and home inspections and grading along the way, and aspects that come under things like the Condominium Act. So it's a complex perspective of how homes get built and how the system is regulated along the way. And there's a tendency to not always understand that. So hopefully people will take a little bit of understanding to say, we think we play a very important role within this. We're not the be-all and everything in terms of resolving home issues, but we like to think that we're playing an important role, certainly in the consumer protection side, and making sure that we're accessible to you. That's one of the reasons we do these annual meetings, why we go out to different communities and hold meetings, is to gather information. The third point I want to make is, you've heard earlier on that we're going to be in a transformation period, that we're working with the Ontario provincial government towards dividing the organization to have a focus on regulatory and to have a focus on warranty. I spoke earlier. I'm actually very excited about this. I think this is a great opportunity for the organization, both to address some perceptions and also to certainly provide a cleaner focus as we go forward. We are looking forward to this, but in the interim, I want to remind people that we remain as both the warranty provider and the regulator, and we will be in this role until this division can be navigated through. And certainly, in my opinion, there's always complexities in terms of achieving this. Lastly, I want to thank an absolutely wonderful staff. I'm blessed to work with a terrific group of people, and I tell you, the staff at Tarion truly cares. They care about the people we deal with, they care about consumers, and they try very, very hard to do what's right along the way. So I want to express my extreme appreciation for all the people all the time. I know sometimes when we interact with the consumers, we're getting somebody coming off a really horrible experience. Things didn't go right, they want to make everything right, and we can be the lightning rod for everything that goes wrong. We can live with that. We're here to try and help. We're here to try and make things better along the way. So we're looking forward to 2019. We're looking forward to having another annual public meeting, and thank you very much for being with us this evening.
Thank you for those words, Howard. They certainly resonate with me, and I hope they resonate with some of our listeners. And that brings us to an end of the 2018 annual public meeting. I'd like to thank all of you for participating this evening. I think there were some excellent questions, and I hope that we were able to answer them to your satisfaction. Now, I know there were questions we didn't get to, and for general questions that we didn't address tonight, we will be posting answers on our website in the frequently asked questions section. And for those that were about a specific issue, we will be directing our staff to follow up with you directly. A reminder that this evening's event was recorded and will be posted to the YouTube channel in the next 7 days. And thank you again, once again, for joining us tonight. Good night.